Hello, hello. Welcome to the official first episode of podcast. I'm really excited because it's not just a general overview. We can dive into a topic. And I was really just trying to figure out what to talk about today. And that's the thing about being a creative person is sometimes I have so many ideas, I feel like I have no ideas. Like none of them are executed or well thought out. It's just like these millions of ideas just completely running through my head so fast that I can't grasp them fast enough. So I decided that I want to talk about something today to start off this podcast, the first episode, talking a little about spirituality, about kind of my journey with where I was even just 2 years ago versus where I am now. You know, growing up, having to go to church versus now being a very spiritual person, more spiritual than I see, that I'm witnessing other people are, and it's interesting because I have been moving around and I am just recently getting here to upstate New York where I'm originally from. I have lived a lot of places the past few years, actually the past 10 years, mostly in New Hampshire. And then I ended up moving down to Florida for a year and 5 months. And then I took a road trip with my boyfriend. We were going to move out west, and then we ended up making that just like a 3-month trip and wound up here in New York where my family lives. It's just been a journey, and none of it was expected. Moving to New Hampshire for 7 years, that was not expected. Moving to Florida for a year and a half was not expected. None of that was expected, and that is kind of how my nervous system is adjusting itself to life at this point for me. Is if I'm somewhere consistently for a long time, it's like I gotta go. I gotta change something. That's where I get nervous or like anxious, is when I'm like settled. Even though I really haven't been settled since I've lived in New Hampshire. That's the last time I lived like with roommates. I mean, I'm living with my boyfriend now, but I had a time where I was crashing with my sister, crashing with my dad, and I'm like, it's the whole existential crisis of what am I doing? What's the purpose of life? And why am I just one day I woke up in Florida. It was probably last summer, so it would be around the time shortly after I arrived in Florida. I remember actually the day I arrived there, the day after I arrived to Florida. The weather was absolutely perfect. It was February. But I was so depressed. I was so depressed. Now, I moved to Florida because my younger sister had a baby, and also I get seasonal depression, which I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a myth. It's not really a myth, but I think we have more control than we think over seasonal depression, and I'm going to experiment with that being here in New York. Now it is December, so we're just at the beginning of winter. So we'll see about that. But I just felt like, I lost my job in New Hampshire. I was fired, that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that could be a topic. Ooh, that could be a good podcast episode, is when I got fired. That's definitely going to be an episode. So stay tuned for that. But all of that just came into, do you ever have one moment where you just wake up and you're like, what am I doing? Or you look at your day ahead and you're like, again, like, why am I doing this? What's the point of me literally going through this job or this day and with the way that I feel? Like, it just does not feel like there's like a reason that I have to experience all of this. And that, my friends, was the very beginning of my spiritual awakening. It was questioning, like, what the fuck? What is my life? I'm not fulfilled. I felt mad at myself, but mostly for a long time when I was experiencing like deep depression, where I was like, hey, I can't come into work. I literally can't come into work. I can't stop crying. And it's like, how do you explain that? With mental health, luckily the restaurant that I worked at, there were a lot of people. I mean, I was like, you know, I was pretty normal there, but everyone was experiencing mental stuff. Everyone in life does. But there was enough staff and everything where I can be like, oh, I can't come into work today. Oh, man. And I remember literally at work being very morbid with just like, I think I just, wouldn't it be funny if I just died? Just like, I would take it lightly. I would talk about it as if it was a very like, I was almost like, it was like a satirical way of talking about my depression, was just saying it like it was, but also kind of being like, haha. And people would be like, you shouldn't say that. Are you fine? And to a couple of people, I'd be like, no. And when I would actually start to talk about it, my tears would well up, and it'd be really hard. And during that time too, I was teaching Pure Barre classes. I was a Pure Barre instructor for a few years. And there were a few classes I remember like literally crying and like having to push through to motivate people to work out, because I was the instructor in the room. So like I had to just not deal with that shit, which that's typically therapy for me. But during that time, the resistance was so intense to everything in my external world. And it was so bad where I was in bed and just crying and crying and crying. I have definitely had experiences with like manifestation, the law of attraction, and really good type of energy type of things in the past. So I knew that like there was a way out, but when you're in that state of mind, it is next to impossible to discern like reality from what you're making up in your head. Half the time I was like, do I need to go to a mental hospital? Because I am feeling so just like nothing matters, and that like I don't want to do anything. Don't talk to me. I can't look at anyone. I would tell people that my friends and family, a couple, very few people, what I was going through, but it was just from afar, None of my close friends were in Florida. And I was living with my dad, and I just felt like a failure at the age of 28, 29, and having to like move in with my dad and being a server at a restaurant. I'm like, I don't understand what is going on. And so I still have the journals to this day of, I was trying so hard to just write anything. I'm like, are there fucking spirits that can like help me like come through? Like I need something. I was literally going mad. That's how I felt. And so I eventually started to help myself. I think the first thing that actually helped me, this is an episode about spirituality, but it's also about depression. So maybe I'll call it that. But I don't even know at this point. But my sister was going to school. She was taking online classes for psychology. And I think she was telling me about something, or we were talking about something, and she's like, well, I'm done with this textbook if you want to keep it. And so I ended up like reading this textbook about personalities and our brains and how they work and disorders and all of this stuff, philosophies and theories. And that's what triggered me to be like, okay, there is more that I'm not exploring that I need to explore. So I started to listen to a lot of different podcasts, mostly on mindset. And then eventually, as my journey went on with podcasting, I've definitely gotten way more into spirituality versus just like mindset hacks or brain hacks. But both are really important. And I'm actually now really focused on bridging the gap between like mindset work and spirituality. That's something that's been intriguing me, and I think that might be something in the future of course I do, or maybe a podcast episode, I don't know, or whatever. I just know that something is within me that has to do with like bridging spirituality and mindset work together, because both have changed my life completely. And it's hard because when you have a really good mindset, but something is off in your soul, that's what I was experiencing. It's like I know rationally that my life is so lucky. Like I'm a fitness instructor, and these women look up to me to help them every day and to inspire them, and they tell me that, and you know, they love me, and it feels amazing. Even at the restaurant, I made so many amazing friends, and I had a really good time when I was in a good mood. Like I actually had a really great time when I was in a great mood. And typically I can put that on fake, but during that couple weeks of bad depression, maybe a month, maybe 2, it was really hard to put that fake face on. But in general, I had a lot of fun at work, you know? And this is why rationally, like in my brain, I could not understand why I was going through this. I didn't have to pay rent. Like that's lucky, you know? And even though my depression was, I think it was just an accumulation of not living my truth. Actually, I know that's what it was. And just waking up and being like, okay, hold on. Who am I? Who this? Like, who is this? I would look in the mirror and be like, who are you? And it's just so interesting because when I was in that depression, oh my gosh, this sky is so pretty right now. It's like pink and light blue. When I was in that depression, I think about when I was like, had bad times in my past, when I was in high school and things like that, in junior high and college even. And I was so caught up with stupid shit that I would be like, quote unquote, depressed about it, like my body. I had a really, 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 really bad struggle with my body for about a decade. I would say over my 20s, and then also in my teens as well. Like basically ever since I got my period. So it's probably been like at least 15 years that I have had really bad body dysmorphia, emotional eating, binge eating. And I never considered myself to have an eating disorder. But it was not healthy the way that I was treating my body, and yo-yo dieting for over a decade. It was so unhealthy. And like my body feels it now. I know that I, have definitely caused a lot of stress on my body because I've been telling it a lot of different things over the past 15 years. Like, you suck. Okay, no, you deserve ice cream. Okay, now you suck. Okay, now you deserve ice cream. And it was just constant back and forth where my soul, that's another reason my soul is aching, just the accumulation of all of the fucking shit that I was putting myself through. I was very much so focused on the external of how I looked. I have a tooth missing. If you're watching video, you can see. And if you are listening to the podcast, you can hop on YouTube and watch the video version there. But I was born without a permanent tooth. And this has been a huge insecurity for me since it fell out at the age of 25. So it was 5 years ago. And for a couple of years, like, it was the biggest shame that I had around it. And it almost makes me want to cry because it's not anything that I chose. Like, obviously, I was born without a tooth. And I went to the dentist, like, please help me. And I've never had a ton of money, like being independent, even when I had, my full-time job that paid me decently. I was never good with money. I am now. But I was never good at saving. I didn't have money for getting an implant. But guess what? I did. I got an implant. I put it on credit card, whatever. I got an implant. I just was like, please help me. And they did it. It failed after a year. A year goes by and my implant failed. As in, the screw was actually coming through the front of my gums. It was poking through. And I kind of felt, it just like happened over time. It was like slipping. My bones, turns out, I mean, the dentist knew this before, by the way. My bones are very not dense, as in they're not very strong to hold an implant. So I needed a graft, a bone graft. Like I needed something to hold it in place, but they didn't do that. I got into like this whole entire thing with the dental fucking office, and I went back and forth with emails saying like, and they wouldn't give me the money back because I wanted to get it done again. I went to another dentist because I didn't trust them. They didn't do it right. And I didn't know. I just was like a young girl who was missing a tooth and who needed to go on dates, who wanted to go on dates and to be a normal girl and not have to like, I know this is in like, now I don't wear it anymore just because the one I have, the fake tooth that I wear, doesn't fit and it's super uncomfortable. And I haven't gotten another implant because it's going to be like $10,000 plus. Because I do need a bone graft, and I know that. I'm not like, oh, just skimp out on it and do this or get a bridge. And I'm not trying to do anything that's gonna like break in a couple years that I'm spending thousands of dollars, like whatever, like whatever. I'm over it. But again, this was something else that added to like that depression of like wanting to hide. But also I would always say like, once I get my tooth, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Just like my body. Once I get skinnier, once I'm a size 2 or a size 4, I'm gonna go on auditions. I'm gonna start dating and I can really put myself out there. I know that I will actually find someone at that point because they'll see me and they won't see like the fat on me. And this is how I thought. And it's not like I wouldn't consider myself fat. At this point, I was not fat. I just had everyone said like it looks like it was baby, like you had baby weight, and you can see it in my cheeks. Up and down 40 pounds for about 10 years. And so I came to this place when I was in my room one day in Florida, and I just started to listen to podcasts. I started to read more books. As I opened up to more people about my depression, they would recommend more books. They would recommend people to listen to. I wrote a lot. I did a lot of journaling, a lot. And the things that I read back, I'm like, wow, I have some wisdom. I really do. We all do. When we are channeling whatever it is inside of us, there's a lot of wisdom in there, and we all have it. It's a matter of accessing it. So I like writing blogs. I like to write in my journal, not only for other people, I mean, not journal for other people, but blog for other people, but for my own personal development of like looking back and being like, whoa, I need this message actually like today. And I learned from myself. And I'm not saying that in like a cocky, like I'm all knowing. Absolutely not. I have so much to learn. I feel stupid half the time because the more that I know and the more that I grow, the more that I also am like, what the fuck? Does anyone else feel that way? I just feel like the more answers that I get, or the more questions that I get answered, the more questions pop up. Because this life is infinite, this world is infinite. Our life is not really infinite. We die. But our soul's life is infinite. So that's, I guess, where I can kind of start diving into more of the spiritual aspects of where I went from there. So it started with mindset, and then I started following people online. I had really like inspirational figures that I followed. No one that's like a celebrity, but just like in the Instagram world kind of are. A little bit more well-known in like the course creators and content creators and influencer. I used to really want to be an influencer because why wouldn't you want to just post pictures and get free shit sent to you all day and you just talk to the camera? Like those are my favorite things ever, is like shit. Just, I'm talking like material items. Like I'm very attached to material items, which this is a work in progress for my life. And I just lost my train of thought. I literally just lost my train of thought because my head has been a little bit off today. And that's why I figured I'm going to jump into this podcast in order to like find a flow of some sort. You know, even like sometimes when I go to write or I have a million books to pick up to read, I'm like, I don't even know which one to pick up. So I'm like, okay, if you don't know what outside thing is going to help you right now, let's do something inward. Let's let you be the focus. And I know that is where I have personally been letting myself down. Is there's a lot of parts of me that I've been ignoring completely unintentionally, but at some level it's intentionally. You know, our subconscious mind is very strong. Holds a lot of shit. Our bodies hold a lot of shit. My body is something when it comes to spirituality and like when it comes to connecting with divine powers and things like that. Like my body is where I feel the connections. My body's where I feel the disconnections. So I've had some really bad days. I've had some pretty amazing days. When I'm feeling so good, all I want to do is dance. All I want to do is sing and be an idiot and stupid like a kid. And that's what I need right now, is to do that. Like I really need to be an idiot. And I've been learning this about myself the past few days. I mean, I've known this about myself, but I've been realizing it even more, like on a visceral level, of how badly my nervous system and how badly my body and just my whole entire being, my soul, needs to be so fucking stupid. Like so fucking stupid. I'm talking like silly and just wild and weird, because that's who I am. That's who I am, is very silly. I'm not stupid, but I can be stupid. And I like being stupid, and I like being wild and crazy and like just fucking make people look at me like, what the fuck is that girl doing? I want to turn heads, like, but I've gotten to this place, and I think a lot of us, most of us as adults do, it's not okay to do that. That's not appropriate in society, to act kind of weird. It's not appropriate. You gotta be prim and proper. And even in my childhood, I felt like I had to hold back in certain ways and at certain times. You know, when I quit dance at the age of 13 or so, it was the hardest decision. It wasn't a hard decision because it was kind of an idea, and then my mom ended up just being like, yes, and then it was a decision. She was sick of it. She was sick of bringing me to competitions every weekend. She was sick of the fucking politics of all the moms, and it's stupid. Like, that was stupid. But I really, really regret quitting dance, because that was a huge part of who I was. I'm showing on the YouTube video right now my dance tattoo. Yeah. And it's just a little tattoo of dance with a music note, because music too is like my everything. But quitting dance, like, I think I'm emotional today, I guess, and I'm just getting emotional, but quitting dance, I felt like I let go of a huge part of who I was. And I gave it up because I was playing basketball and I couldn't do both. I was never good at basketball. I wasn't even that good, quote unquote, at dance, but it was an expression, and it was my time to be in the spotlight and be on the stage. And I was shy when I was really little. I was really shy when I was really little. So that was just my, like, look at me, mom moment. And I think as adults, a lot of us are kind of like wanting that experience of like, look at me, like I matter, because it wasn't necessarily fulfilled in our childhood. Definitely, that is the case for me. I am a middle child. I am someone who loves attention. I love to just like, I don't know, I think about even college and just different living in New York City and dressing up, putting makeup on, and just feeling pretty and like just being looked at. And I loved that. I've always loved that. And I still do. I still have a draw. That's why I want to act. It's not why I want to act. That's part of it. I want to have a platform that's big enough so I can spread inspiring messages, but also I want to entertain. I know this, I want to be, it's like I want to be more entertaining. And I think that is resisting me being entertaining. Because like, oh man, I'm in this whole like personal development space where I want to better myself and help other people better themselves. But at the same time, like I'm an entertainer, like at heart, like I want to dance, I want to sing, I want to not really sing. I'm not a singer, but I do want to sing. I love singing. And I just want to like be free to express in whatever way I want. This ended up being a little bit more emotional than I thought it would be. Because today is the kind of day where I was just feeling off right from the beginning. And I've had a few of those days recently. And so I'm just digging into that and figuring out where I need to give myself a little more love. And that is what triggers are, is they are shining light on where there are holes of love within you. That's what triggers are. Whether it's someone, your boyfriend, who says something and you're like, why did you say that? Like, why did that one thing trigger you? Or you didn't get a text back, or you did get a text back, but it wasn't what you wanted it to be, or your mom said something to you, or whatever it was that wasn't necessarily something that should have made you emotional, but it did, and it triggered you. There is space to look at right there. You need to kind of dig in and see where you need to give yourself a little bit more love. Because for a long time, I looked outside of me for love. I looked there, clothes, makeup, hair, colors. I would do everything on the external to make me feel something. You know, I look back at myself when I had this rainbow hair. It was like blue and green and purple and pink and teal. Oh my God, it was so cool. But I remember feeling like, okay, like maybe this will help me feel like I didn't really consciously think this, but I look back and I know that was the feeling behind it, was like, I just want to feel worthy, and I want to feel cool, and I want to feel like I'm lovable. And that's what we're all going after, right? Okay, this podcast was supposed to be about spirituality, but once I dove deeper into mindset work, a lot of spirituality started to weave into that, because there's a lot of questions that can't necessarily be answered strictly from science. There is definitely a science to spirituality, but only to a certain extent. So much is unexplained, so much is taboo. You know, I started listening to this woman, Elizabeth April, look her up. She's fucking amazing. I'm obsessed with her. She is a clairvoyant, and she can astral travel and all of this stuff. So she's taking my spirituality to another level, like to another planet, like literally to other planets, to other universes. It's been amazing. And that's why I love spirituality, because there's no limitations on it. But as far as religion goes, there are. I mean, if you are strict, I've once dated this guy who was Baptist, very, very, very strict. Now, we dated, I don't know, a month or two, a couple months, I would say. But it didn't last long. Why? Because of his religion. He was basically not allowed to date someone who didn't believe in Jesus. And I said, well, maybe I believe in Jesus, but like maybe to not your extent. And I wasn't really as spiritual when I dated him. That was 2 or 3 years ago. I'm wicked spiritual now, and now I would fucking school that kid. I'd be like, listen, Jesus was a dude who is not someone that I need to pray to in order to go to heaven. Because guess what? Heaven doesn't fucking exist. And that's my belief, is that this is something that might trigger you. I don't know. That's okay. It's a new idea. You can listen. You don't have to agree. I do believe that earth is heaven or hell. And it's however you choose it to be. So you can choose to live in heaven, you can choose to live in hell. And sometimes they will overlap, and it's such a glorious thing called life. When we die, this is my belief, is that our souls always are living on. And there's no man, like a bearded man. And I've listened to, this is actually a podcast episode I want to do on what happens when we die, because I'm reading this book that's called What Happens When We Die. So there's a lot of stories that I've read about when people have near-death experiences. They see a light. Sometimes they see God, like a God-like figure. Sometimes there's a person that's not a male or a female. Sometimes there's no person. Sometimes it's just stars. Sometimes it's just bubbles. But it really comes down to your beliefs that you had here. So, like, I believe when my grandma died recently, like, she saw God and she maybe saw Jesus. I don't know. But we have, I do believe that whatever we truly believe, we will see when we die. So some people see Jesus-like figures or God-like figures. But I think most of the time it's light that people see, and like a tunnel, you travel through like this tunnel. And it's so interesting. I'm like so intrigued with life and death, and that's why I'm into spirit. Well, that's not why I'm into spirituality, but that just is another layer to the aspects of spirituality that I'm interested in. I'm really interested in our souls and how our souls, oh my gosh, there's so much to even say about souls. Like how I've heard different things, like sometimes your soul isn't even inside of you, like it's kind of outside of you. You have to make sure you anchor your soul into you. You can lose your soul, or not necessarily lose the whole thing. Different entities can come in and maybe take over. There's a lot, like there's so much. But the cool part about this is Joe, my boyfriend, he is definitely more science-based, but is spiritual too, but definitely more science-based. So when we talk about these things, we talk about it like, okay, so energy, like as far as physics go, like we talk about quantum physics, all of this stuff, it's all intertwined. When like a soul is an energy, it's a type of energy. And when a soul dies, what happens, or when a person dies, what happens? That soul cannot die because it is energy, because the principles of physics tell us that energy can never die. It only can transform or move. So what happens with our souls? It transforms or it moves. Where does it go? Where does it go? And we go back to source. Like that is quote unquote heaven. Again, I don't believe in hell. Like, that's ridiculous. The people that believe, I swear, this is like something that is just so bizarre to me. If you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell when you die. Wow. Talk about scary, especially when you're preaching that to a child in Sunday school. What the fuck? That is bullshit. I'm also going to be doing a podcast on spirituality versus religion, so I want to get deeper into that. But oh my god, like that just, it irks me, because I'm like, who do you think you are telling some kid that they need to live in fear so they don't sin, so they don't go to fucking hell? That is bullshit. That's bullshit. And I will stand by that statement. That's okay if it triggers you. If you are religious, I mean, no offense, but man, just, you got to think about these things. Like, wow. Okay, back to spirituality. So what else do I want to say about this? It has saved me to go deeper into exploring all of these questions. What happens with our souls when we die? When do we get our souls? When we are born? You know, when does that come into play? How much of our soul do we have in control of versus our personality, or how, like vice versa? Like, does one control the other? You know, when it comes to contracts, I believe that we signed a contract to come down to planet Earth at this time. And I do believe that right now, during coronavirus, like we all signed up to be a part of this time. I really, really believe it. And I know that a lot of people are shifting in their beliefs, and they're kind of opening their minds and maybe just kind of exploring different ideas in regards to all of this type of stuff. And in regards to also questioning powers, as in the government and, all the people that are in charge, I've questioned a lot. And my spirituality has gotten me into some deep rabbit holes, let's just say that. And I kind of went crazy for a couple weeks this year because I was going down rabbit holes. Like, I don't like the term conspiracy theories because this term was actually made up by the government to make it seem crazy. It's not in perfect agreement with what everyone believes. No, there's a lot of shit that goes on behind closed doors that we simply do not know about. And I'm all about, I'm an intuitive coach. I'm an intuitive coach. So I'm all about tapping into my intuition and figuring out my own truth based on how I feel when I hear something. Not just hear it from like some power, the news, a doctor on the news, whoever it is. I'm not going to just sit there and be like, oh, wow, that's true. Oh my God. I'm like, okay, where did this information come from? And I'm not immediately like, that is false. But more times than not on the news, they're telling you something to make you feel a certain way. So how are you feeling when you're watching the news? That'll tell you something. That'll tell you what their agenda is all about. I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I'm just saying, like, I've been questioning things. I question everything. I literally question everything. I question everything that I believe. I question my habits. I stopped drinking coffee. Like, how many people have heard that coffee is so good for you? I've heard that a lot of times in my life. Doing research and finding out other things. Oh, coffee's not that great for me because I already have anxiety and I don't need to be tweaking out and my adrenals are fatigued. So I'm drained. That's not healthy. So I stopped drinking coffee. I started drinking celery juice instead. I started drinking warm water with lemon. I'm starting to nourish my body. I'm not turning on the TV every day. I actually don't ever watch the TV. I never watch the news. And a lot of people, my parents, I just need to be informed. I need to be informed. That's great. Go wherever online, quickly do your scan, be done with it. Don't sit, with your face just like wide-eyed at the TV and just let every piece of information sink in as though it is the 100% truth. That is one source of information and it is coming from one source, and that is who is in power. We don't need to fight necessarily. I don't think we should fight the power, but we need to question the power. We need to empower ourselves to live lives better than what is being portrayed that we should live. It pissed me off growing up, and it also added to my body image dysmorphia and just hating myself because it came from the TV. I remember sitting on the floor watching TV. What comes up? A commercial. Activia. Have this yogurt so it cleans you out and you get skinnier. Look at your waist. And it like highlights your waist. And like there's a little like measurement band that goes around your waist. So when you eat this, you're going to get skinnier. Okay. Next commercial. Have a brownie. You deserve it. It's been a long day. Eat it real good. Heat it up. Have another. Maybe another. You deserve it. Okay. Next commercial. Weight Watchers, lose some weight. You aren't good enough until you lose some weight. Okay. Next commercial. Come to Arby's, we have curly fries. Why don't you eat our curly fries? Next commercial. Atkins diet, it's the only thing that works. No carbs. You're going to be happy when you don't eat carbs because you'll be skinnier. Man, that would piss me off so bad. So bad. It didn't piss me off as much then as it does now because I wasn't totally aware of it. But I took it in and subconsciously I knew, like my soul was fighting against it because I know that this shit is not right. Consumerism in itself is like a fucking epidemic. It's fucking pandemic. The what the commercials do is they try to tell you that there's something wrong with you, and then they're like, but here's your solution. And you're like, ooh, you're right, I am fucked up. I do need that solution. So what I'm saying is, spiritually, I've evolved so much that shit doesn't affect me anymore. It makes me eyes rolls. Me eyes roll. It makes me eyes roll. Makes my eyes roll. Like, it doesn't affect me where I'm like, what do I do? And that's what I was in the past. I would go on the Atkins diet. I would literally think that bread is the enemy. I would literally think that I needed to lose 20 to 40 pounds in order to feel love. Literally. This didn't just pop out of thin air, this feeling. It, might be a little bit of an ancestral trauma that I'm living through, and that's another topic, I guess. I mean, it does have to do with spirituality, but when we're born, we have DNA, and this DNA comes from who? Our parents, our ancestors, people before us. So as we collect this DNA, like, I am living as I am my ancestors right now, because I'm an accumulation, basically, of their DNA. So that's an interesting thing to think about. So it could be a little bit of ancestral trauma. It could be a little bit of like inner childhood wounding. I definitely need to work more with my inner child. That's something that I have done now that I've become way more spiritual, is understanding that I really think that we're all children, but we kind of grow up, like our bodies grow up, but our souls are like children. They are the most pure. They are the most connected to source. I look at my niece and she's in this world where she's like blissful, and I know why. It's because she's not fucking tainted by this world. She's in the 5D. Like, she's living in another dimension where the 3D shit, it's not affecting her unless she's getting her ears pierced and being traumatized like the other day, and it made me cry. Basically, oh my God, that was so sad. She's 2 years old. She's so freaking cute. She was traumatized. It was traumatizing to watch, honestly. She's not, I think she's fine now. It was way worse for me, but my God. Anyways, what I'm saying is kids are spiritual because they are connected to source. They are connected to divine love. They're smiling and laughing over what? Wiggling a stupid, like, whatever. It's because they're in another dimension. Yes, they're sitting next to us, but they are not in this 3D reality where we are run by fight or flight and stress and anxiety. That's all we do. That's all we are run by. Kids, no. They are in another reality and they are feeling blissful, all connected to source, which is where our souls come from. Our souls come from a source of energy, and we are a piece of that. We're each a piece of that source. That's my belief. And the more we tap into source energy is the more we tap into our inner child. Like, I really do believe that. And that's why the feeling that I need to play and dance and be crazy and be stupid is coming up for me recently, is because I need to connect more to source and to my inner child. It is literally a healing energy. So yeah, I mean, there are other people that are able to live at that frequency, but it's very, very rare. I would say it's probably less than 10% of the world's population live in the 5D or above. Like, I don't really know much about dimensions, but I do know that when you live in the 3D, that's the world, the reality we are living in right now, what we can feel and touch, and like the external stuff around us kind of controls us. I want a new car. Okay, what do I have to do? I have to get another job. Okay, so your life is literally revolving around this shit, this stuff. That's why my attachment to stuff is so, it's not aligned with my soul. It's not aligned with anyone's soul. It doesn't feel good when you have clutter. Have you ever watched those shows where they have, what's it called? Where they have all the stuff? Hoarders. Man, that hurts my soul to watch it. Because these people are so attached to these items that literally mean nothing, but they've attached some sort of meaning to it. Whereas their insides are empty and they are feeling so sad. And so they are trying to fill the void with stuff. I just watched Paris Hilton's documentary. This is Paris, and holy shit, you should watch it. It was very sad, let me just say. It was way sadder than I thought. I thought it was going to be like, oh, she's such a nice person. Like, oh, Paris. But that's not the case. It was like, oh, Paris. Oh, Paris. Oh, made me feel sad. Like, I really felt sad for her. I still feel sad for her. Like, she needs I hope she sees a therapist. The whole time I'm like, does she see someone? She needs help. Oh my gosh. But, so being connected to Source is basically a feeling of love and gratitude. So the more that we can channel love and gratitude, the more we can connect to Source energy, which connects us to our souls. And the more we do that, we can actually hear our intuition a little bit louder than our ego likes to yell at us. Our ego, again, is that very 3D. It comes with the human experience of like, I'm stressed out, or I'm anxious, or oh my God, I need to run, someone's chasing me. Or it's kind of just like the thing, like our brain. It's basically our brain, and it tries to protect us. It keeps us in that fight or flight survival mode. Whereas when we are connected to Source and our spirituality, we are in that divine ease, love, gracious, amazing, angelic type of bliss type of feeling. So it's important. That's why people meditate, is to connect to that feeling of like, I got to shut the brain off. But the problem is it's really, really, really challenging to shut the brain off. So if you have any techniques as to how you like to do it, definitely send me an email. I would love to hear. For me, breath work helps because I'm focusing on my breath versus just like laying there silent, trying to shut my brain off that I'm hearing very loud and clear. Breath work, it's like, or through the nostril. Like, there's a lot of different techniques you can do. But you're sitting there and you're actually using your breath to connect to your body versus like letting your brain take over. So it's allowing your body to take over so you can reach that source frequency a little easier. You can decrease your stress and anxiety and let your body just literally take in oxygen and feel what it needs to feel. And a lot of times it makes me cry because I have emotions that aren't let out necessarily when they need to be, because adulting, you can't cry all the time or when you want to because you have to go to work and you have to see people, and it's weird if you're crying in public and throwing a tantrum. I think that'd be funny if we all stayed kids and randomly there were adults throwing tantrums in the dollar store. But I want this kind of toilet paper and you don't have it. That'd be funny. That'd be funny. That'd be a funny world to live in. But I think we need to connect more to Source and find some peace there. That's where spirituality is a huge aspect in my life. It's like, I know that there's peace that exists. You don't have to find it on an island and escape your actual life. Because if you're doing that, then you're literally trying to escape your life. You're trying to escape your life. How long can you try to escape your life? For your whole life? You're never going to be satisfied unless you're on a vacation, which you're going to be sad half the time because you're like, oh my God, only 4 days till I go home. That's not a life to live. And we're all working on it. I'm working on this. Man, I am working every day to figure out more about myself. That is me being spiritual. I am questioning everything. I am asking my inner child what she needs. I'm asking my spirit guides what I need to do for this world. I'm asking for divine downloads for podcast episodes and for blog posts. It's not just you. And I think that's a really cool aspect to being spiritual, is like you don't have to feel lonely if you're alone. You are from this amazing source. You are surrounded by angels and entities that have your back, and you can tap into those. I've been trying to tap into those a little bit more, and I pray to, this is what I pray to, okay? I go, dear God, source, energy, entities, elements, water, wind, fire, earth, grandma, ancestors, and everything else surrounding me, thank you for having my back and for supporting me and for bringing me continuous abundance. Thank you for allowing me to feel such immense gratitude and excitement upon waking every single day. Thank you for the partnership that I have. And thank you for allowing this partnership to grow and to expand and for us to learn together and separately. Thank you for the amazing job opportunities, and thank you for the amazing amounts of money and success and abundance that you continuously shower upon me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I always say gracias combo at the end. And that is something that Joe and I do together because we typically eat our meals together. So we've made that a habit. And I think that's a really good habit for everyone to be in. It doesn't have to be like, dear God, it doesn't have to be dear universe, it can just be like, dear energies around me. And that's kind of what I do, is I just like pray to all the energies because we're not alone here. There's a lot of energies working for us and also against us. So we want to pull in the energies that are working for us in order to be stronger when the negative energies are trying to bring us down. That's very important. It's very important to really tap into that gratitude. And I've said, thank you so much for all the abundance of money and all that jazz. Do I have all of that money right now in this physical 3D reality? No. I'm grateful for it because that is my way of manifesting the life of my dreams. That's my way of actually coming into more money, and to having just not necessarily more stuff, but just more abundance of happiness and gratitude and the way you want to feel waking up in the morning. If you're really focused every day for a few minutes even on how grateful you are for the things that you have and that you want in the future, the universe will meet you halfway and gift you those things that you are grateful for. They want to meet you there with that frequency. They want to give to you. They don't want to work against you. The energies around us, the universe, God, wants to help us flourish and to become lighter and brighter and happier. But we have to tap into those energies in whatever way that works for you, whether it's laying down and meditating, doing breath work, journaling, scripting, saying out loud a prayer, saying in your head a prayer. You don't have to call it a prayer. Write it out, whatever. You can just say it. Put it on a sticky note, put it on your bathroom mirror. Pray to yourself. I mean, there's no limits to spirituality, which is different with religion. Again, I want to get into that in another episode. So I think that I'll probably leave it at that today because I went a little longer and kind of just weaved in and out of different topics on this episode. Apologies for getting a little emotional. I was definitely off today. I have been for the past few days, but I am going to be doing this kind of thing in order to just kind of get me back on track. Everyone falls in and out of alignment a lot in life. That's why we are human, experiencing this human experience. We are here to not only feel the good, jolly old feelings, but we're also here to feel heartbreak, sadness, pain. When we do feel that sadness and that heartbreak, that's what makes us stronger. And that also shows us what we need more of, where we can show up more for ourselves. You don't have to look at your boyfriend or your husband or wife or dad or mom or son. You don't have to look to them to give you more love. Look inside of you. Look inside of you. And you'll find that peace there. And I'm working on this with you. We're doing this together. So I hope you enjoyed this first official kind of long episode. Thank you for hanging in if you have. I really appreciate you being here, whether you're watching on YouTube or on my on any streaming platform. I really appreciate it. And I hope something resonated with you today. I don't even know what I said. I was just kind of letting it flow. And I think that's how I'm going to have to do this. Because when I try to strategize a little too much, I get stuck and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do an episode because I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about. Today I was like, I don't know, I think I'm going to talk about spirituality. So here you go. I'm going to dive more into spirituality in upcoming episodes when I compare spirituality with religion. I'm going to be diving into a lot more topics. Diet culture stuff. There was a time when I was on Hydroxycut and did weird stuff like that. So I want to do an episode there about my experience with the company and like the things that they told us. Really crazy stuff. So hopefully you keep watching and listening, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening.